So hello and welcome to Mixologist. Today we're on to this video is going to be about the Weather kind of 32 DIR 90. Now what I had to do with this carb, you remember in the previous video it was quite dirty, so it was very difficult to see anything, to be honest. So what I had to do is I put it on the ultrasonic cleaner and on the blasting cabinet because I wanted to get the item sufficiently clean to be able to assess its condition. So what I do now is assess if there are any cracks or any anything untoward in the unit. And actually this unit is actually pretty sound. Certainly the body of it, I mean the top here is, I mean it still does need a bit of cleaning, and there is a bit of an issue here in this choke tower, but the kind of air corrector inlet is fine. It's also a bit, there has an issue here as well. And obviously now it's much cleaner than it was before, so it's not fully clean yet, but at least it allows me to assess the condition of the unit, which is okay. So I think I'm gonna be kind of starting the rebuild process, and part of the rebuild process that I'm going to do is I'm gonna try to just file off just a bit here in both the throttles, and put a slightly smaller throttle screw. I'll show you in a close-up what I mean, just to help the airflow a bit more, because what I want to reduce is the cross-sectional area here just a little bit, so that the more air is able to flow through the carb. I'll show you in a close-up in a bit what I mean by it, but for the time being the condition of the carb is good enough-ish, and we can carry on with the process of rebuild. So I'll show you in a minute what I'm going to do with the throttle plates. Okay, so we're moving on with the repair of the 32 DIR Weather. But one thing I wanted to show you is that one thing a bit of work I've done with the throttle shaft, and let me bring you close up so you can see it a bit better. So what I did with this shaft is I slightly took a bit of the edge off it, because I'm going to use a different set of screws. Yeah, so and you can see it a bit better in here. If you see the difference between here and here, I thinned down the shaft a bit, and I'm going to put a different set of throttle screws. This is especially for this sort of carb, because the normal screw was quite prominent, it was like about here once it was screwed in, so it presented quite a bit of a restriction to airflow. So by doing this, what I'm doing is I'm creating a better path for the airflow down the bore, especially because this is so this is a 32 bore, so it's quite narrow, and therefore this would help the carb flow a bit better at wide open throttle. So what I need to do now is I need to subject this to a process called chemical blacking, which I've done in other videos in other carbs for the Lorton Weathers. So basically when you see this, when I start assembling this, it's gonna look completely different. It's gonna look quite nice and black. So that's the process I'm gonna follow. So I've got it to a stage now where I have got the throttle smoked up, but crucially also the throttle mechanism, so that it actuates. Now I'm going to show you a close-up because this has been quite the process. Obviously, given the fact that this is the first carb of this model that I've done, clearly, obviously I was kind of a bit rusty. It was the first one I've done. If it was a Holly or a Delotto, this would have been a much quicker process. But one of my top tips really is for you have to take pictures of the item, because when I was disassembling it, I took pictures of the item as I went along, and that's how I was able to rebuild it properly. So I'll show you some of the intricacies a bit closer up. So let's have a look. So first of all, how do you know that the unit is working properly? Is if it actuates properly. So you get part throttle here and then full throttle here, both open. So, and the return is nice and crisp. I've got the accelerator pump done here. So all of this is working okay. But here's the thing. There is, because all of those kind of all the can you see all these springs around here? Well, because of where they go, they have an order of integration which you need to put them in. So that's where this comes in. So first you have to do the secondary here, the secondary shaft, then this unit here, and then the primary goes this way around because it has to be beneath this one. This is lightly sprung, and this one is the actuator for the accelerator pump. And then on this side, if you see, there is a spacer between this unit here, that is the kind of the idle control, then another spacer and the actuator for the secondary, which is there, and then another spacer and the ball where the throttle goes. So that's the way it's put together so that it actuates properly. Also, there are two things. If you can see, I have modified the throttles ever so slightly, so that they are slightly thinner on this side, and also the screws as well have been cut so that it generates less of a restriction, especially at wide open throttle. It should be this unit should be quite kind of ballsy, shall we say. And as you can see, I did say in the previous video that I was going to treat these units with chemical blacking, which I did. So actually this looks quite good. As I said before, the accelerator pump is ready. You always have to remember to put the spring inside there. So with that said, I think it's time to kind of end this video. And generally this is what I call what I call a key sub-assembly. The only thing that is missing now, before I start building all the other bits and bobs, the only thing that needs to happen right now is I need to secure the throttle screws with some Loctite with thread locker, and this will keep the screws tight, and so they don't come out. Obviously that would be a disaster. So I'll do that, and then I'll show you the result. Okay, so now I've secured the throttle plates with the Loctite 270. So I'm going to show you what they look like once they are secured, because I've done an additional process, which is I use this sponge and I slightly bend. Let's see if you can see it in the camera. slightly bent the edge here, so this is slightly bent here and here and here and here, and what this will do is this will secure the screws, because they are not only secured by thread lock but by this. So I'm very confident that these screws are actually not going anywhere. So this brings us to the end of this video, and in the next video what we're going to do is just finally kind of put the carb together and get it ready for, well, put it on sale for dispatch or whatever it is that we're gonna do. So I'll see you in the next episode.